Greetings, greetings. So I just came on here quickly today. Just wanted to just do a quick share. So I don't have time to be on here every day because an actual garden every day takes a lot of work. You don't even have time to be on here all the time. In addition, if you have, bills and other things to pay. So just a couple of things I was just thinking about. Hopefully this might perhaps be helpful to a young person that is thinking of going to the tropics. I keep hearing all of this talk of knowledge, tropics, veganism, higher self. Okay, so first of all, knowledge. Knowledge, if you want just knowledge is different from rhetoric. Rhetoric, circular, sounding like it's very esoteric or very knowledgeable. If it's not applied, it's not knowledge. Anything not applied consistently is not knowledge. It's words, it's savvy, it's conning. People can con you that look exactly like you because it seems they're showing you from a screen a picture that looks very nice. If right now, if I was to take my camera outside and show you the big banana trees in my yard that have plantains and bananas that grew from the size of a cup, it's common in the Caribbean. You can book a flight to the Caribbean on your own. There are some raised beds from recycled lumber. That was actually a lot of work. It took several years for some of these fruit trees to bear fruit. So folks, these con artists, they know exactly who to speak to. They know if you're a young adult and if you're very green and if you don't have a frame of reference. So if you were just to listen, you can tell because you're mesmerized. And this goes for older adults too, because I'm not a dummy. I'm a working adult. I've even traveled in the airline industry. But when you're seeking an escape from your job or you have a sense of adventure and you're not willing to be, two key words that can help you. Two key words that can help you folks. Two key words. If anything that these folks, these personalities are telling you, celebrities, personalities in particular, folks that you don't realize that they're cults. Well, now there's enough information. But some folks you may literally not realize that they're a cult or con artist or manipulator. If they are trying to give you a message that you can bypass accountability and responsibility because they have some secret formula that they're not going to tell you, and by the time they reveal it to you, it's going to be too late. You'll be in too deep. You've damaged yourself, subjected your body parts, your reproductive organs to something you hadn't anticipated, and psychologically you may be bonded or hooked to people inside of the cult. So anytime there are patterns, they go to different populations, or they could be at a fair or a festival or somewhere, right? They could even college, especially now online. It's not just cult leaders. Everybody's scamming you from online, or phishing is the term, right? Where they can tell based on your questions, they can tell just like the computers can tell by cookies, and they can chart your different movements and market different products to you. Then cult leaders and manipulators know exactly who to go to. Why? Because we trauma bond and we're looking for air, which is not necessarily wrong, but it can put you in harm's way. You're looking for someone to be that ear for you where your father wasn't, right? It doesn't take long. This is like somebody at a fair that's a fortune telling. You're like, wow, how did they know all this information? Well, when you're older, and you're not just older chronologically, but you've had more life experience, you can read the patterns. So they know exactly what populations to go to because they know you don't have a frame of reference. So this knowledge, unfortunately, is hogwash because there's plenty of theories, even different scientists. All of this stuff is really theories, right? It's like eggs, cholesterol. It changes all the time. So it can sometimes make you feel very puffed up or make you feel better or just be a pleasant distraction from your life situation or from some trauma. Tropics, book a flight. There are work study programs, work away programs. It will be advisable for you to be safe, to save your money up, to research. Even if you pay your money, you do everything right. It is very likely that when you go to these different countries, it is very common for people to get scammed. Anybody can get an Airbnb. Anybody can get an Airbnb. I've done it. Anybody, any age, if you got a job, you have a credit card, you can get an Airbnb and you can travel. So if people are showing you images, selling you something, you know, if they just have some nice words or very clever words and everybody looks like they have the same outfit on, you know, the people are playing like mind games and they're psyching you out because they're selling you what you want to see. And it can be catered and manipulated for whoever the audience is at the time. If it's a man that's missing his father, a young woman that's missing her father, somebody that has been traumatized, somebody that's on the outs with their mother, someone that was bullied, someone that was picked on in school, someone was teased for their hair, if it's a young Black man that was in prison, you know, it can be catered for whoever the audience is in front of you. So, you know, hopefully we'll come out of this year as a collective not being so gullible. There's no easy way out. As you just watch, and I can't watch all the time. I can't even sit through any of these videos because I can't, because it's painful. It's actually painful. It's painful to watch. How you can see how desperate many of us are. Let's not get it twisted. Male and female, right? It's not wrong per se, but just because you're a nice person doesn't mean that you won't get scammed. Because you have a couple of college degrees doesn't mean that you won't be manipulated or you won't get scammed. So Tropics, you could go on a vacation and take a picture. I could go stand outside right now and take pictures of an extensive garden and of banana trees. So does my neighbor. So it's common. Just book a flight to the tropics. It's somebody selling you a fantasy. It's a fantasy of what you want to see. If you want to travel, pay and go. You can take virtual tours online. Do your research before you go there. I invite you to not break your ties with your family, even if you may not be the closest. If there's an emergency, you want somebody back on the other side that you can get a phone call to, because overseas is not the United States. In case folks didn't think, because folks don't ask any questions of these personalities. I wonder, do people ever stop to think that there's a whole population of people that live there? Does anyone ever stop to think of what the current minimum wage, working wage is in these other countries? Everybody's so intent on going to the tropics. You do realize that many people are breaking their necks to try to get to the United States. Slow, very slow Wi-Fi, still 2021. Some areas of the Caribbean, certain things, the fruit and vegetables may be cheap, but the Wi-Fi is extremely expensive, and many places inadequate. Some places there is no Wi-Fi, especially if someone's going to take you to an area that is so-called in nature. That I can tell you from experience. And the Wi-Fi is extremely expensive. Make sure that you have a telephone number that works on the States, because most likely all your banking and stuff is not going to really work either if you don't have a phone from the States. So before you cut yourself all the way off and you get yourself in a situation, all right? So let me just see if I can, because there's so much, I can't be on here all the time. It's irritating, but I just really feel for folks that are so green. I'm hearing young adults in their 20s out of the military, and you're asking this person, you haven't done any research. There's enough information online now for most of these cult leaders. We're not doing our research. We're not doing due diligence. This is, you want to get into a so-called romantic relationship. Right now, people are not doing STD tests. You're not doing Interpol, because there's an Interpol, right? So you are tracked internationally if you have a record. If you have certain diseases, that is tracked internationally. Even though there are still people flying underneath the radar from the States. Folks that couldn't make it in the States and couldn't run their game, they decide to go underground or take their operation overseas. Okay, this veganism. We want to eat healthy. Many women are getting suckered into the cult because you have acne and because you're overweight. You need a scientist to tell you to eat fruits and vegetables. So we are willingly handing our brain over to these other people. And it's due to trauma, not to demon. It's due to trauma because it makes absolutely no sense. These folks who you're easily handing your stuff over to. See, if somebody really cared about you, they'd invite you to do your own research. They'd invite you not to be so quick. Folks don't even realize that they're being audited and that somebody is running and directing the whole question and controlling the narrative, telling you what you mean, asking questions and answering the questions themselves. I experienced this. I'm not a dummy. There's different levels of cons and master cons, you know. There's levels to this. Many people may have not really experienced a master con, but they're at every level of society and they do look like you. It's not just so-and-so supremacy. There are some, newsflash, that look just like you. And today there's so much that's come forth in our community and we're still following them. Gullible, maybe just not wanting to, I don't know if I want to say, I don't want to use the L word, lazy, but we're just, rather than name calling, we're not willing to do due diligence. This higher self, the person that I encountered, I'm not gonna be here too long, but let me tell you something. So there's patterns people are not peeping. Many of us, especially women, we want to be the best student in class. We want to be the one that I'm following all the principles, because it also speaks to wanting acknowledgement and wanting validation. We want to show, some men to a certain degree, but especially women, we want to show that I'm going to outdo everybody else. I'm going to be the star student with the principles. So you'll make sure that means you allow yourself anything. You'll allow these people to do anything. And when you're isolated, you'll start rationalizing all kinds of acts, giving up your bank accounts, and you've got a whole team of people there, you know, who've been there longer than you, that are going to be working in on you and your brain and giving you acknowledgement and stroking your ego until you hand over your private parts, your reproductive organs, you hand over your money, you hand over your resources, until you isolate yourself from family. I hear this constantly online from different leaders. Common sense, the context. People are controlling the context. Your common sense. Hold on to your common sense. You got to cut your family off. It's called healthy boundaries. Be careful with this language, this loaded language. You have to cut people off. Somebody's telling you you have to cut people off. There's a distinction between cutting off people and condemning people that might look different, may eat different than you, but they're still family. Be very, very careful of other people controlling your narrative. And then when you're having a conversation, or if you're looking, I watch people lining up online. I've seen it. Lining up to have a conversation with a narcissist is an exercise in futility. It's like everyone's ego think, yeah, I got him. I can take him on. I can take him on. First of all, many are not comprehending. A narcissist doesn't have a conscience. So you're beating your head up against a brick wall. Then anything you say the narrative is going to be switched. Even if you watch the narcissist break a bottle over the next person's head, they're going to take the rhetoric and switch it around and say, that's not what you were seeing. Actually, you were showing, your lower self thought you saw a bottle going over the person's head. But actually, that person was being taught a lesson and working with, their demons. At one time I would have felt like that's impossible. This is why I say all the time, people think that they cannot be scammed. People think that they can. All somebody has to do, which they are professionals. There's something that they do all the time habitually. It's a habit of which everybody's not thinking, at least not to that degree, of scanning your insecurities, which because we like to talk so much, when we keep talking, and when you start bonding, you start revealing all your information, you've given them information now to flip on you and to manipulate you. So all it is, the vegan, eat some fruits and vegetables if you want. Are you healthy? If you're not healthy in your quiet moments, you know why. And discipline. They can't do that for you. But folks are signing up for something. They're signing a check their behinds can't cash. And I think it's absolutely astounding that folks that in your face now, this is a Jedi mind trick. These manipulators, to a certain degree, are going to tell, when they get really cocky, they're going to tell you what they're going to do. But in your mind, especially a woman's mind, you're thinking, well, that doesn't apply to me. I'm different. Maybe thinking it's a case of, as a famous rap artist to say, the illest nah, or you're going to be the one to change this person. Exercise in futility. Exercise into futility. And you can observe people numb now to the abuse. This is unfolding for our eyes. So it's quite an opportunity. This is such an opportunity for learning. That's perhaps the best thing we can get out of this. And to also be an acceptance of, you can have con artists and manipulators that look like you with the outfit that you like on. They come in every package. So maybe perhaps that's something for us to reckon with. Anybody can give you a background scene. That's not hard. And there are also plenty of things in the United States to take advantage of. Right now is a time where, as much as we're talking about how horrible it is, glass half full, now is a time where you can use the internet to leverage education. Everything you wanted to know about business structuring, language, taking courses at universities, developing a network with people overseas. The time is ripe if you have a focus. But if you have a victim mentality, see, folks that know that you have been traumatized, you are ripe to be manipulated. You are ripe to be manipulated. And the most valuable resource is not just your money, your reproductive organs, but also the allegiance of your mind. There's constantly a competition going for the valuable currency of your focus, and your attention. Use your park. The United States has some of the most beautiful parks. I've traveled to a bit of countries, has some of the most beautiful parks in the world we pay tax dollars for and are not using them. You want to live a healthy lifestyle, you can work it out from exactly where you are. And that's a fact. We're not looking at the resources that are right in front of us, that are right there, like right underneath your nose. There's plenty of education. Now is the time to really leverage and maximize our time in education. It's wide open. There's a lot of stuff we didn't push forward. So now that everyone has been forced to homeschool, now that's a door of opportunity. That's a whole industry that we can go into. Hair business, whole economy, right? If we're really, really thinking creatively. Right? If we're really, really thinking creatively. And also something to consider, you won't always be in your 20s and your 30s. What are you going to do when you're 50 and 60? You're going to think you're going to be living as a hippie and allowing somebody to have their way with you on your reproductive organs? How long do you think? I love natural healing and all of that. There's an emergency. Did anybody happen to research emergency medical care in these other countries? I can tell you right now, some of the minimum wage is less than $2 US without insufficient internet. So you tell me, where do you think the money for most of these cult leaders is coming from? It's coming from you guys in the States. Too easy to take your hard-earned cash and take it out of your pocket because somebody's showing you a show. I sure wish I was there. Everybody's looking at what you think you don't have. Maximize those community gardens or start a garden on your own. There's nothing stopping you. You have the internet. And for all the things we say we can't do, somebody right now, you look on the internet is doing it. Look on the Philippines and watch what some of these folks are doing with so-called nothing, with tires. Even in Norway, parts of the world where there's hardly that much sunlight, and they're doing vertical gardening in their houses. I'm just saying. And all of this holographic universe knowledge, folks have got you so, you thought you were running from the basic Abrahamic religions, and all you do is run right around into another circle of rhetoric, the holographic universe. Okay, if somebody's cutting off your leg, you get hit by a car, right? Somebody, and I've watched it. I've watched somebody get their leg jacked up, and the cult leader just put his hands like this on the person's knee, and the person just, because the whole group pressure, everybody was watching, walked away like it was nothing, hobbling. And me and my family member was like, wow. Be careful you don't let these folks, you allow folks to con you out of your natural, divine, on-board, innate, common sense that you were born with, that supersedes any guru, any religion. Everybody on the planet was born actually with common sense. It's just that it's been co-opted. So if we continue to allow ourselves to be duped into a lack of accountability and responsibility, it's going to get more intense. The suffering is going to get more intense until we get, the lesson. So figure out a game quick. So Folks, put your thinking caps on. Don't be so easily. Somebody showing you a picture of banana trees. Is that all it takes is for somebody to show us a banana tree and say, I got knowledge and I got some self and I'm vegan? Is that all it takes to get in our drawers? Is that simple? I could just show you some natural hair. My hair's long. I could show you an outfit with some wives, some women lined up. And actually, it might be that easy. Why? See, it seems like it's simple, but the undertone. Folks want an escape from reality. Not going to demonize that or make it wrong. People want something different. But there's a process. Whenever somebody's trying to show you that you can get a quick shortcut to the process, be very, very, very wary. Ask the uncomfortable questions, the critical thinking questions. And if somebody gives you a rhetorical answer, red flag. If somebody is very deflective, red flag. If somebody's telling you what you think, red flag. If somebody can't run the numbers, red flag. Check the real estate on your own. You can go online and check this stuff. But they just know we're gullible and that we're not going to do due diligence. That's why you can hide something right in front of somebody's face, because they're just not going to do due diligence. So, it's just the being so gullible, it's painful to watch. I wouldn't consider myself gullible, but even I, being very idealistic, we can be very, very intelligent. You can have numerous degrees. You can be very articulate, but sometimes not emotionally intelligent, or sometimes just too idealistic. Wanting to see the best in people can really get you jacked up, because there's duality, and people with nice outfits who have great sounding words and outfits can really do some really devious stuff. And you'll be gagging and in shock by the time you find out. Or you might have some children that you're trying to fight for by the time you figure it out kind of late. So all this to say, I invite you to put your thinking cap on and think for yourself. Think for yourself. Allow yourself to be uncomfortable and ask the uncomfortable. All you have to do is be respectful. That's it. Ask the uncomfortable questions. What is your vetting process? Everybody must have a vetting process. A vetting process is a list of questions that you ask to qualify something before you allow them entry into your psyche, your purse or your pocketbook or your accounts, and into your private parts. So, oh yeah, it's still there. It's still operating. It's still operating. I've seen them numerous times. It's really amazing. We don't see, the general public doesn't see how we are enablers of this. Many people don't speak up when they leave the coast. I used to be fascinated. I said, what happened to all the people that left? Eventually, I did get in contact with quite a few of the people that I had come across that had left. That's a whole other story. But I'm not going to put everything on the internet. You know why? Everything doesn't belong on the internet, because there's such an appetite for dragging people through the mud and gossip without any intention or consideration. Is jacked up as this manipulator is, and as jacked up as it is that, there are women also in there that enable this. I would never want to see harm. And this is what they know. Women don't want harm to come to other women and children. However, you got to be careful, because this is where the manipulation comes in, where they know you won't put your foot down because you're so idealistic, right? This means some people won't defend themselves or won't report them. So when a lot of people leave and they don't speak up, or they're pressured, they say, where are all these people? How come nobody speaks up? I guarantee you, when people don't speak up, or the people that stay in the cult, he's got something on every single person that's in there. Every single person that's in there. And most of them, their parents know that they're in there. And the cult leader knows that most people out in the world that's going to be entertained and not going to do anything about it. So there's levels and layers to this. This is just one of many cults. It's a mentality that is very prevalent on the planet right now. And so it's easy to point our finger, but we don't see how many of us as a collective, we're playing into it. We're enabling it, because people won't stand up, and we're too busy getting popcorn and being entertained. But if there's a predator over there in that part of the village, it's a matter of time before they make their way around, as we've seen with one of the more known ones right now. Just a matter of time. People are thinking it's not a big deal. And now we see that they have access to other people, and they will always, cults will always have people willing to go in and to submit, because people don't want to think for themselves, or they're just highly traumatized. They just want some kind of relief, even if that means not thinking for yourself. So they may likely always have followers. And many times people are trading off the cult that they grew up with. The difference is the cult that you grew up with, usually you can get up and you can leave. But it's a different, whole nother situation when you're in one and you're isolated. So we're just very, very gullible. Part of that is due to the grooming process of religion. And just we all have different levels of indoctrination. So we may not think, we all may think that we're so different than these people that we see in these cults. But I can guarantee you that there are numerous patterns that are playing out in most of our lives. So perhaps the best we can do is get a lesson from what we are watching. But I can tell you, especially with young people, so many that have been traumatized at a young age, which is why it's really, really important to protect children. Because when children are violated intimately at a very young age, it blurs all boundaries, as we can see. And also, women, we bear responsibility in allowing certain people to portal onto this side, not doing a thorough vetting process. Right? So we play a role of responsibility too. Men do and women do, because we're parenting unintentionally and just not being responsible for securing the safety and the values in the food. That a lot of that stuff should be pretty much decided upon, even though things can change, before these little human beings get here. They're babies for a teeny amount of time. As I've had a friend and a couple of people tell me, I chose not to have children because I would create a menace to society. They're not toys. They're not novelty items. And cult leaders will use children. Let's make no mistake about it. Cult leaders and manipulators, they get old. Pimps can have children. And they will use their own children. Make no mistake about it. So anyway, I'm off. The cults are plenty. Sometimes there's a cult of one in abusive relationships. So it's trending right now. There was a professor, and I'm gonna just end on this. There was a professor who's teaching youth psychology recently, who teaches on narcissism. Several people have found his page online. I can't think of the gentleman's name, but he said in his research and preparing his syllabus for the upcoming semester that in reports from Europe, Brazil, can't think of the other country, but several countries, Africa, it appears that right now what we're seeing, he said, his words were, we're starting to see a subspecies of human beings, a subspecies we are creating of young people that don't have emotions. There right now is being generated a subspecies of human beings that don't have emotions. So I invite us to consider, while everybody is, is swinging all over the place and everything is like, a repeat of the 60s with the free love, without the warning signs of the pictures of diseases at the end of these music videos with the diseases that we are producing, because we're not thinking of at least the ideal situations, not just money, but emotional and mental stability of the person, and if both parties are committed, and also if there's going to be any kind of support outside of the two people when you decide to be a steward, a volunteer position of parenting human beings. It is not a joke. If we don't take it seriously, you are potentially contributing to a menace to society, because many of us are emotionally underdeveloped and traumatized and have not resolved our own familial and own trauma, if many of us have been violated. And then we're going and we're using each other like a pacifier. And so this is what we're producing. So I invite you all to keep your thinking caps on. This whole knowledge stuff, it's rhetoric. It's rhetoric. It's BS. And folks was so gullible and was so vulnerable. So gullible, so vulnerable, just ripe for confusion and manipulation. If it wasn't these cult leaders, it would be different religious icons. And so it is high time for many of us to wake up, or we'll continue to allow it. All right, folks, be safe. Be well.